Okay, here is a helper video for the antiderivative matching worksheet. And this should be fairly simple, but I just want to talk about what is an antiderivative, because in fourth period we talked about it, but in third period we did not. So a antiderivative, well, let's back up a second. Let's talk about, well, what's a derivative? So for example, if I have a function, here I have 3x squared. If that's my function, f of x equals 3x squared, then if I asked you, well, what's the derivative of that, we would say, okay, I need to multiply my 2 by my 3, and I get 6, and then I minus 1 for my exponent, and I get x. It would be 6x. So that's the derivative. There is a derivative, or also known as the gradient function. This will tell us the slope of any tangent to this curve. Okay, the antiderivative. Well, it sounds like sounds like opposite of derivative. Opposite of derivative means you go backwards. Okay, so derivative, I'm going this way. Antiderivative, I'm going backwards. So for example, if I told you that f of x was equal to 6x, and I asked you for the antiderivative, it would be going backwards. It would be finding the original function as if this was, oops, you can't see that, as if this was the derivative. So we want to go backwards. So the antiderivative, we write f of x with a capital F. And so, well, we kind of know where this came from. We know it came from here. It came from 3x squared. Okay, so if we take the derivative of the antiderivative, we get the function. 2 times 3 is 6, and minus 1 from the exponent. Okay, so what if I had 3x squared, that was my function, which is the first one here, and I want to find the antiderivative. So let's think about that. The antiderivative, if I'm going backwards, right, here's my derivative, here's my function, I want to go back up, sort of up the ladder here. Notice my exponents, this is x to the first, this is x to the second, so this is going to be x to the third. So if I bring this 3 down front, what do I have to multiply 3 by when I bring it down so I end up with this? Oh, just 1, or nothing, okay, x to the third. So now I can test this and make sure this really does work. This really is the antiderivative to 3x squared by taking its derivative. So if I take this f of x and I take its derivative, I should get 3x squared. So let's see if it works. So bring my 3 down front, and minus 1 from my 3 gives me 2. So it matches. Okay, so the antiderivative to 3x squared would just be x cubed. So let's find x cubed over here on the right-hand side. Down here, letter J has the x cubed. So I'm going to put a letter J right here. So it's just matching, and I use letter J, so let's go ahead and mark that off. Right? Okay, so here I have negative sign. Oh, okay, so remember how this works. Sine and cosine are derivatives of each other. So if you need to get out your formula packet to remember which one has a negative and which one doesn't, go for it. So basically, think of this, one way of thinking about this is the derivative. What was the function? These would be the functions that when you take the derivative, you end up with this. Okay, so again, antiderivative is just going backwards. So instead of taking in the derivative of these, you're basically taking the derivative of these and finding the derivative over here. But it's good if you can start thinking about going backwards, like I did with this one. Think about going backwards. If I have x squared, go backwards, it becomes an x cubed. So if I take the derivative of x cubed, do I get this? Yes. If not, what would I need to multiply in front in order to get that to match up? Okay, so just a matching activity, and tomorrow in class we'll do it without matching, where I'll just give you functions and you have to figure out what the antiderivative is. All right. We're also going to be doing our test corrections in class tomorrow, so do make sure you bring your test back with you, and we'll be working on those in class to make sure you get all the answers correct.